It's time to make some noise. It's time to sound off. Welcome to Sound Off Sports. On today's show, we're talking Stroud versus Lamar, Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. NFL Divisional playoffs are officially here. We make our picks. Plus, Brittney Palmer, former UFC Octagon girl, joins us on the show. She just retired. We talk about what's next. And plus, we need to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your rants in everything when it comes to the sports world. But first, we start with what you had to say about head coach Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia. SOS starts right now.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports.
Welcome to Sound Off Sports. I'm your host, Mike Davis. I'm joined by my sidekick and show producer, James Edward Barrickman, the fourth. Good to see you, my man. All right, today we have to start off with what we asked you at the end of last week's show. We were asking whether head coach Nick Sirianni should be fired in Philadelphia if Philadelphia should lose to Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers. Well, the worst has happened, James, and we heard from Hank in Philadelphia last week. Let's hear what he had to say and just remind our viewers what he had to say prior to the game.
It's Hank from Philly, and speaking on behalf of all Eagles fans, Nick Sirianni should absolutely be fired if they lose. It's sink or swim time. The past few weeks already been unacceptable, but losing against the Buccaneers, now that would be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yes, so the worst has happened in Philadelphia. All those nightmares that we were hoping weren't going to happen as Eagles fans, well, guess what? They did happen. James, we heard from a lot of other fans on this issue. Now that Philadelphia has lost and they looked that bad, what are people saying when it comes to Nick Sirianni? Should he be fired?
It's mostly bad things regarding Nick Sirianni among Bird Nation. So this is from one that we got from Michael Carranza via Facebook. Quote, they should move on from that fraud. Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen were the real brains behind the Eagles being good last year. A fraud.
I agree with him 100%. Shane Steichen, what he has done in Indianapolis with the Colts, with Anthony Richardson going down and having Gardner Minshew, he is the brains behind that operation. I think we had great coordinators that were hiding a lot of the flaws. What does Nick Sirianni do? Nobody really knows. He doesn't call plays. He doesn't create a good culture. I don't know what he does.
I am on the side of this next respondent we have here. This is Matt Kling. He says the Philadelphia Eagles should not fire Nick Sirianni. You were 1 year removed from the team winning the NFC for just the fourth time in the Super Bowl era. If he gets canned, every other team with a coaching vacancy will jump on to hire him. Clearly, there needs to be some change on the coaching staff, but also some underperforming players need to go.
Matt Kling is 100% wrong, and I'm going to tell you why people are not going to jump on Nick Sirianni. This is the greatest free agency of coaches we have ever seen. Potentially Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, Mike Tomlin, he said he's coming back. We don't know what's going on with the Steelers. We got Mike Vrabel. We got, the OC in Houston. We got the OC Ben Johnson in Detroit. This is the best it's ever been in terms of getting a new head coach. Yes, if there weren't a lot of great coaches out there, maybe he would keep this job. But when you have a pathetic display, let's be on the numbers. 0 for 9 in third downs against the Buccaneers. 42 total rushing yards. 3 rushing first downs. The team quit. It's beyond even the numbers. It's the body language. That's what my problem is. Coaches not only are supposed to put you in a position to succeed, I don't know how he didn't know that Todd Bowles blitzes. Everybody knows Todd Bowles blitzes. That's what Todd Bowles does with the Buccaneers. The fact that nothing was drummed up and then he's not on these players where they feel like they don't even want to tackle, they don't want to try, they don't want to play. That's all I got to say. He should be out the door.
It looks bad, right? You drop, I think, 6 out of their last 7, completely collapse, and then you go on the road in the playoffs and just get totally dismantled by a team that you're probably better than, but you are just 1 year removed from a Super Bowl appearance. You have a pretty darn good roster in place. I would give him another shot next season, but grew up a Pittsburgh fan. I'm loyal to head coaches, maybe sometimes to a fault. The Eagles are much different. Think about Andy Reid. He went to a Super Bowl. They moved off him. Doug Peterson, he went to a Super Bowl and won. They moved off him. So Nick Sirianni's not special. The Eagles are very, what have you done for me lately? If it were up to me, I would give Nick Sirianni one more chance. But to your point, this is one of the greatest coaching free agency classes that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, and I just think, listen, our coordinators, they've regressed. It's a totally different staff. The Matt Patricia move from Sean Desai, the OC situation with Brian Johnson, not looking good. I just think if you can get your hands on a Mike Vrabel, if you get your hands on a Belichick, on a Ben Johnson, you have to go for those types of players. I am sorry, Nick. I think he should be out the door. But let's move on to our NFL Divisional playoff picks for this coming weekend. So I want to start here with who I'm just feeling. So you know what? I'm riding the Houston wave. Houston, we don't have a problem. I like Houston and the Texans to beat Baltimore and the Ravens. I think, Lamar's probably the MVP of the league, James, but I still think, he could just poop out. It's a Lamar thing. He could do it. And the way that Houston's playing, the way Stroud is playing, I'm going with them. We're going to be diving in with them later. I'm definitely taking 49ers over Packers. Packers, congratulations, first 7th seed in history to win a playoff game, so that's nice, but I'm still going with the 49ers. Lions over Bucks. I'm riding the Lions. I still think this is their year in a lot of ways, but that Chiefs-Bills game, a lot of people are talking about that. We're going to do a deep dive there. I'm taking Buffalo as well. I really think Buffalo and San Francisco are going to be in this Super Bowl game. But James, let's dive into Texans-Ravens. C.J. Stroud, we spoke a lot about him last week. How impressed were you with him and everything he did as his first game as an NFL rookie QB?
There's really not enough you can say about what C.J. Stroud has done. This team was supposed to be really, really bad, and C.J. Stroud, I'm gonna say it. I would take C.J. Stroud almost over any other quarterback in the league outside of Mahomes or Josh Allen. I think he's that good.
He might be better than Joe Burrow at this point. He just looks so good. Let's talk about some of the things he's done. First of all, they destroyed the Browns, who had the number 1 ranked defense in the league, 45-14. Laramie Tunsil on Myles Garrett. That's a big X factor. We got to talk about how great he played. But let's stay on Stroud for a second. He's the youngest QB to win in playoff history. 22 years old, 102 days. I mean, this guy, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 157.2 passer rating. He looked phenomenal, and he just has the swagger. He's got the poise. He's got the calm. And DeMeco Ryans has this team playing well. The defense looks great, too.
No, last week when you took Miami over Kansas City, I thought you were kind of crazy. I'm with you on Houston potentially upsetting Baltimore. You look at Lamar's playoff record, he's 1-3. He's not been at his best when it matters most. And John Harbaugh, he's not under the realm of blame. He's lost 4 out of his last 5 playoff games as well. Baltimore's looked great. They're the 1 seed. But you look at this Houston team, they're dangerous. They're playing with house money. They're a young team. They don't know what they don't know. And we've already talked about how great C.J. Stroud has been. I think Baltimore's on serious upset alert this week.
We were talking about it in the back office. They are playing with house money. And, I think they might be so fresh, so green, that they might just be able to believe in themselves that much that they can take down a team like Baltimore. The other game we got to dive into, everybody always loves to talk about, the history between these 2 Titans at the QB position when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. But this time it's different. Yes, they had a nice win against Miami last week. That cold factor played a lot more of a role, like James was mentioning last week. I didn't believe it, but yes, it really did show. But I think, this is a different time. This is when Josh Allen looks good. He's playing well. They had some interesting ups and downs throughout the season, the Bills, but they might be gelling at the right time. And now they're playing at home. James, Pacheco and Rashee Rice played really well for Kansas City and the Chiefs. But, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to the wire like it always does with these 2 guys. But last time Josh Allen didn't have a chance to even go up and make that battle with the overtime rules. Now he's going to have that chance on home field.
They changed the overtime rules for him because of that game. I think this is Buffalo's best opportunity to take down the big bad Chiefs. Allen hasn't beaten Mahomes yet in the playoffs, and I do truly believe that this is the Buffalo's best chance to get to the Super Bowl for the first time in Josh Allen's career. First road playoff game for Mahomes. I think that's interesting. Yes. Mahomes is great as an underdog. They're an underdog in this game. I do like Buffalo to win. I think Buffalo is going to play really well, and in turn, or I think Josh Allen's going to play really well, and in turn, Buffalo's offense is going to play well. I think what it's ultimately going to come down to is Mahomes and the Chiefs' lack of elite weapons outside of an aging Kelsey and Rashee Rice, who I like, but he's just not on that level quite yet.
Yeah, I think home field advantage and turnovers. I mean, Josh Allen's all about turnovers. If he's got a ridiculous stat. If he's turning over the ball, it's a totally different story. If he's not turning over the ball, they likely win. So I like to see what's going to happen there, but I really think Buffalo is going to be pulling this one out. But I want to dive into another guy who I really think is having a major mark on one of the hottest teams right now in the NFL, and that's the Detroit Lions, and that's GM and Executive Vice President Brad Holmes. Now, this guy, I mean, there's a viral video, we're going to show it for you, of him just being so excited inside an elevator after this win for Detroit. This is the first playoff win for Detroit in 32 years, and it's been a long time coming. 1992, that was their last playoff win. We all remember 2008 when they went 0-16, just a dreadful situation. Well, Brad Holmes, everybody's talking about the Rams and the Lions and the return of Goff and the return of Matt Stafford and that, but Brad Holmes, the GM who's in charge of personnel, putting this team together under the culture, under the guide of Dan Campbell and the head coach, well, he really made his mark in the league with the Rams and Les Snead. This guy, he worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car after college. He was a defensive tackle at North Carolina A&T, trying to get a job in the NFL. He's working at Rent-A-Car, ends up getting a PR internship with the Atlanta Hawks in the NBA, parlays that into a PR internship with the Rams. He becomes good friends with former running back Wilbert Montgomery, gets a lot of great experience, strikes up a friendship, and then from 2002 to 2012, this guy's in front office roles like a scout, area scout, national combine scout, scouting assistant, and then in 2013 becomes the director of college scouting. So he was responsible for a lot of great draft picks in that Rams franchise, from Aaron Donald to Goff, who he got back, Gurley, and Cooper Kupp. And then when he's named in 2021 the GM and executive vice president of the Detroit Lions, signing a 5-year deal, his first thing he did, he traded for his boy Goff. He did that trade, trading Stafford, and he got those 2 first-round picks and a 3rd-rounder along with Goff. And look what he has done since then. Not only do they get this playoff win, but his picks, those impact players, made a major difference in that game we saw last week. He takes rookies Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta in last year's draft. They accounted for 2 of the 3 touchdowns Detroit scored. We also saw on the defensive side of the ball, rookie Brian Branch, the safety, coming up huge in the red zone with those 2 stops, one on a batted pass from Matt Stafford and another from stopping Cooper Kupp. So that was major. And I just think let's take a look at some of these guys he has drafted in 3 short years. Penei Sewell, maybe best offensive lineman in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he took him 4th round, 112 overall. Next year, Aiden Hutchinson, along with Jamison Williams. We'll see how he turns out with his health. He also got Malcolm Rodriguez. And then this year, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch. He takes this team from 3-13-1 to 9-8 to now 12-5 in their first playoff victory. So sometimes we see with these franchises, it's not just about player execution on the field. It's not just about the culture that a head coach creates like Dan Campbell, but it's about personnel and what guys in the front office are doing to make that vision come to life. And we got to give a round of applause to GM Brad Holmes for everything he has done in Detroit. Coming up after a short break, we're talking to, yes, perhaps the GOAT when it comes to the Octagon and ring girls. We got Brittney Palmer joining us next. She's just retired. She's going to tell us what's next for her in her bright future. Stick around. We got more SOS coming up.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
Welcome back to SOS. So now we got former Octagon UFC ring girl Brittney Palmer.
Hi.
Thanks for being with us. I mean, it's pretty incredible. 16 years as a UFC Octagon girl, 6-time MMA Awards Ring Card Girl of the Year. It's pretty incredible. As you look back on your entire career, 16 years, What have you learned most about yourself throughout that time?
Oh gosh. I feel that I've learned most about myself is just my capacity to do what I love for as long as I want to do it.
It's a special thing seeing the growth of the sport. I mean, I think we all know, it started back in 1993, and then the Fertitta brothers, Lorenzo and Frank, they purchased it for $2 million in 2001. They insert Dana White as the president, kind of running everything. From your perspective, what has Dana White done to just elevate the sport and get it to transform over time?
Well, I mean, you can't really think of UFC without thinking of Dana White. He's been able to brand himself with the sport. You can tell how passionate he is about the sport, and he knows how to create entertainment. And I think that it shows with the numbers, with the expansion, with the loyalty of, the people that work there and work for them. So, yeah, he's done such a great job, and he's going to continue to.
You just finished your last event, December. Now you got this whole new journey as an artist. You've been doing this for a long time. You started at 20 as, an Octagon girl, but art speaks to you. Yeah. It's a sincere interest. You've been doing it for a long time. What is your stuff like when it comes to the canvas?
I mean, I love to paint abstract work, portrait work. I really paint everything and anything that speaks to me that I feel that I have the capacity to do, and sometimes they're great and sometimes they're not, but I love doing it, and I'm honored that I am able to do it.
What has made, your work not only stand out from the canvas, but you think from the Octagon? Why is it that people are so drawn to Brittney Palmer as the Octagon girl over those 16 years?
It's a familiar face. I've been there for a long time, but I've also created an authenticity to my brand, and I've stayed authentic to being an artist and being who I am, and I think that people can see that, and hopefully it resonates with them as well.
Tell us real quickly, 16 years, Octagon girl. A lot of people say you are the GOAT of all the Octagon girls. I even saw Barstool said that. Who is the GOAT when it comes to UFC?
I'm going to say right now there are many, but I'm going to go with John Jones right now.
John
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Bones. There you go.
Yep.
The great Brittney Palmer. Where can we see more of your art and everything about you?
Social media, I'm Brittney Palmer or Brittney Palmer Art, or you can go to BrittneyPalmer.com.
All right, homework for me. I got to see this Doc Ellis card. We all know what he did on that no-hitter. Brittney, thanks for being with us. We will see you after a short break. This is the best part of the show because this is when you get to sound off. I'm going to bring in my sidekick, producer James Edward Barrickman, the fourth James. A lot of people talking on social media. Let's hear what they got to say.
Yeah, so this is regarding the A's and their potential move to Vegas from Greg Blandino. Las Vegas doesn't need a washed-up baseball team.
Listen, Greg is 100% wrong. The more, the merrier. We want the MLB. We want the NBA, we want everything here in Las Vegas, and this is not only good for the A's, it's good for the MLB itself. It's not like Oakland is treating the A's that well. Nobody goes to those games. Injecting some life into this franchise will be good for everybody, for the owner, for the players, and for the MLB itself. Plus, I had on my own podcast, Vegas Huddle, we've had perhaps the best Oakland A athlete of all time, definitely has the best mustache, Raleigh Fingers, and he lives in Vegas. He even wants the team to come to Vegas.
No, as a Las Vegas sports fan, I think it's a slam dunk. You want all those, all the professional teams to come here. And that ballpark, the renderings are beautiful. My only question is that ownership of the A's going to spend? Are they going to be pressured to spend? Because they were in the 10th largest television market in Oakland. They'd be dropping to the 40th. They'd be the smallest in the MLB. So they'd be relying on ticket revenue, merchandise, and other things. Are they going to generate the revenue that they need to spend on a competitive roster? That's my only question.
Listen, it can't be worse. Just how Ricky Henderson used to steal bases. If an Oakland A's franchise comes to Vegas, they will be stealing the hearts of Las Vegans. Let's move on.
So this one's about the Raiders and their coaching search. This is at DRico94 via X. He says the Raiders and Mark Davis need to stop playing and hire AP already as the full-time HC.
All right, listen. I think we got to start here. Last week, Mike Tice came on the show. What did he say? The number one attribute for a head coach in the NFL would be a leader of men. Well, we know AP, Antonio Pierce, he's already proven that. He can do that. The locker room wants him. Players want him. The fan base wants him. To me, it's a no-brainer. The only issue here is The reason why this is even up for debate is because of the coaches that are out there and are available, right? It's the Belichicks, it's the Vrabels, it's Ben Johnson, it's all these guys, Harbaugh. That's the problem. If you could get your hands on one of those guys, would you rather have him than AP? That's the question.
No, and I feel bad for Mark Davis on this one because, you're fighting what the fan base wants and what the locker room wants. We've heard that Max Crosby, per report, would request a trade if they didn't hire Antonio Pierce. But on the other hand, is Antonio Pierce the right guy for the job moving forward? They went 5-4 with him as the interim, but as you mentioned, there are all these other great coaching candidates out there. And if you went with what the fan base and what the locker room wants, and you miss out on one of those guys, and Antonio Pierce doesn't work out, you're going to look really, really bad.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, to me, this is a lot like dating or a marriage, right? You want to be in a relationship with the person who wants to be in a relationship with you. AP, he grew up a Raiders fan. He loves this fan base. The fan base loves him. I don't even know if Belichick or Harbaugh or any of these guys want to be a Raider with how things have gone in the recent past. So I would just say be in bed with the person who wants to be in bed with you, and I think AP is that guy. We'll be right back after a short break.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
All right, before we leave you, we want to let you sound off. We got one more person who's sounding off about AP and everything going on in Las Vegas. Let's hear what our next caller has to say, and we'll see you next time on Sound Off Sports.
You're in the division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Sean Payton's an offensive head coach. Why not, instead of trying to beat the best quarterbacks and offensive coaches at their own game, why not zag and go with Pierce, who knows how to win a Super Bowl as a player and who saw the team immediately improve when he was in charge. The players play hard for him, and what he's done has been impressive. Don't screw it up. Go with Antonio Pierce. That's my take.